XM is a design that will split a crowd in two distinct camps. You will have those who will love it, and then you will also have those who hate this design. BMW has just unveiled the XM, the production version of the XM concept, and the thing is, when I first saw this car, I thought it was a completely different car from the XM concept, and that has all to do with the genius use of graphic design in this car. So there is a lot I want to talk about. We're going to talk about the sketches, the design, compare it to the concept, also talk about the front, side, and rear of this specific production version, and also talk a little bit about the interior, because there's something going on there that I wish BMW could have done better. And for this occasion, I'm wearing my BMW E30 Doodle t-shirt. Obviously, you can go and check this out at thesketchmonkey.com. So let's start here with the design sketches of the XM. So these are the design sketches of the production version, and I'm just blown away by how BMW transformed the concept into this production. I'm a huge fan of the production version. I think it looks fantastic and it gives me hope when it comes to BMW's design. So let's start with these early doodles up here and see what I like to look at these sketches to kind of get an idea of where the designers come from and what kind of ideas they had in the beginning and how it morphed into the production version. So as you can see here, we have a completely different front end than we have in the concept. You might not know that now just looking at this sketch, but it is in fact a completely different treatment of the lower part of the front end, which I'm gonna show you when I compare the concept to the production version. And this difference makes a massive change in how you perceive this car. And you also have the grills here are starting to become a little narrower than they were on the concept. They were massive on the concept, and they were also illuminated, so they kind of emphasized the bigness of the grills even more by having them lit up. And they still have that in the production, but they look so much better. So moving down here to the more developed sketches, you can see that the outline of the grill has also changed in its design. It's not the same outline like we had in the concept. It emphasizes the width more, and this in combination with these new graphics right here works so much better than the concept, because we now have a connection between all of these pieces that we didn't have at all in the concept. So looking at the rear view, something big changes in the rear as well. They changed the entire taillight treatment of the design of the XM production compared to the concept. Also showing that in just a minute. You can see that it was inspired by the M1 right here. For example, these pieces, we have some BMW logos up here, which I think is a cool touch. It didn't look good on the concept, but still it looks better on the production version. Moving down to the more final renders right here, you can see we're starting to finalize what the design is going to look like, and that's what we're going to jump into right now. But before we do that, let's talk quickly about the spec and tech here of this XM, because it is a beast of a machine. So it is a plug-in hybrid with a twin-turbo V8 packing 645 horsepower and 590 pound-feet of torque. And the price, well, it's going to start at around $160,000 when it goes on sale early next year. And later there will be something called Label Red, and this will have 735 horsepower and 735 pound-feet of torque, which sounds pretty nuts, but you have to keep in mind that this beast weighs over 6,000 pounds, so it's going to need all that power to move this thing around. So here you can see we have 0 to 60 in about 4.3 seconds, and then you have the power numbers right here. You have also pure electric range at about 51 to 55 miles, which is good for cruising around town, but I'm really glad that they stuck a big V8 twin turbo under the bonnet as well. And here you can see this contour outline of the grills, which looks really cool in my opinion. So I want to show you the concept here and compare it to the production. I don't want to make this video 30 minutes long, although I could do that, but I want to quickly show you the concept before we jump into the magical treatment of the graphic design in the production version. So up here to the left, all the way down, we have the concept, and on the right side, we have the production version. So look at the grill here on the concept and how far down it stretches into the lower part of the front fascia. And this just looks like a big hole that just doesn't have any graphic features in it. It kind of looks like the grill is hanging in a void or inside of a hole. It doesn't have any structure at all to it. Looking at the production version, what they did here is they created this structure underneath these grills, and they also reduced the height of the grille and stretched them out horizontally to emphasize this width of this car. And on top of that, we now have connection all the way around this front fascia with these lines that frames the outside of the front fascia. And you also have those type of angles in the grille, and we also have that type of angles in the lower part of the front face. And this is something that BMW has had a lot of issues with lately. The 3 Series and the iX, which I'm going to show you here, compare that to the front view. They just don't have any connection between the lower part and the top part of the front of the face. But we do have that here in the XM, and I think it's a great job moving from the concept to the production. It's one of these cars that very rarely you see a car looking a lot better in the production version than it did in the concept, but that is definitely the case here for the XM. I think it looks fantastic, and I'm going to show you what it looks like in black, which just blows everything out of the water when it comes to presence and stance of this car. What I didn't like about the taillights of the concept is that they stretched way too far onto the side, almost hitting the rear door here. It looks almost grotesque, this treatment of the taillights of the XM, and I was not a fan of what they did here. It looks pretty sloppy in my opinion, but they tidied that up in the production here as well. So they've worked both in the front and the rear to create something that is, I wouldn't call this car beautiful, but it now has a continuity all around it. It still has this more of a product design feel, but it still feels more automotive and more emotional than the concept. You can see that this stretches way less into the side of the car, and it's also a lot thinner, and we have some dynamic movement in this piece of design now. It's thicker here, for example, and then gets thinner as we go into the rear of the car, while here it almost has the same thickness all around and creates a very static, sloppy looking rear end. You can see that more clearly just how far this piece stretches in to the body on the concept that it does in the production version. This looks so much better, and the side view as well. Very fluid here now. We have more simple lines in the side, while in the concept it's very rugged and very messy with all these lines. And I don't like how this line connects with this. This doesn't create a nice flow to it, and it doesn't feel BMW to me at all. So let's have a look at the front view here, because I really want to show you the treatment of graphic design and how that totally transforms the front end of the car. I have 3 different versions of the XM here, and they all feel, the perception I get from each one of these feels like a totally different car just based on the graphics. I'm a little confused about this part, this piece in the front end of the XM, because here you can see it's body colored, and I think that looks great because that gives the top half of the front end a base to rest on when we have it in body colored, and then you have it here in black. So I'm not sure if this is some option you can opt out or opt in for to have this piece body color, or if it has to do with the reflections or something, but it definitely looks like it's black right here, and this gives it this void feeling that we had in the concept that I'm not a fan of. So I'd rather have it be body colored like this. Up here it looks a whole lot better, and he also gives it the same structure that we have in the top part that we have in the bottom here. And then also this framing that we have of the outside of the front end makes it look like it is everything is supposed to be there in comparison to the concept, which specifically had in the front end some really weird things going on right here with all this origami style. I'm not sure what's going on here, but nothing here connects to anything in the rest of the front end, and that is a huge difference that they did in the production version. Now, if I were to buy this XM, there's no doubt what color I would go for, and that is black. I think it looks stunning in black. It looks really cool, and I like the way they treated the headlights here. You can see that this is now smoked out, so it really blends into the body. You can only see the headlights when they are actually on. The same thing with the taillights, which I'm going to show you in just a second. They're also smoked out, and I love this new treatment of the daytime running lights. Very thin lights, looking super aggressive, and this grille treatment, this is the grille I want to see from BMW. You can make it big, but you need to make it look like it's a part of the rest of the design, and that's where I think the XM designers did really well here, specifically comparing it to the concept. And then I have to pop in the iX here just to show you how confused I am these days looking at BMW's design. I'm sorry to say it, but it feels almost like a joke when I compare the XM to the iX. It's one of these things where one graphic feature in the front end has no connection to any other piece in the front end, while in the XM it's the complete opposite. We now have features working in symbiosis with each other, and that's what's lacking 100% in the iX. So these are two completely different designs, but they're also designs from the same company in the same segment. They're both BMW SUVs, and I don't understand why BMW is spreading themselves so thin when it comes to their design identity when they know how to make a cool looking SUV like the XM. Let's have a look quickly at the side view before we have a look at the rear, and also quickly the interior to finish this off. Here we have, I want to show you the graphic design here as well, and just how beautiful the black is, because that hides this piece, which I'm not sure I'm a fan of, this trim piece right here. It's almost like a golden color. There's no Hofmeister kink specifically visualized here, but you could argue that this little upswing right here is a very elongated Hofmeister kink if you really want to, try to find it someplace here. But I'm not sure I'm a huge fan of this graphics. They're trying something new, and I appreciate that with BMW, with these gold or bronze accents with the black trim at the bottom, and then you have the body color in the rest of the car. But to me, there's just no question. I would definitely go with the black and not have this two-tone, because I think looking at it in black, it emphasizes the proportions more, and I really like these proportions because we have a long hood, typical for BMW SUVs throughout the decades, and it also shows that it's an internal combustion car, because this is what you need if you want to have an internal combustion engine. You can't stretch the greenhouse too far and make it like a bubble like pretty much every single EV these days. Looking at the rear view, last but not least, before we look at the interior real quick, here I also want to show you the differences in graphics when it comes to body colored, and then you have black. I think this is probably the best view for this design. What I love about this design is you can see that these taillights, they don't stretch as far as they did in the concept all the way to this point. They now stretch into the side of the car, into the corner of the car, and really stretches out this design, making it look super planted with these 23. These are, by the way, standards, and you can option for 22-inch wheels. That BMW says that that's going to reduce the weight of the car, but you know me, I would definitely go with the 23s in this case. And you also have, in addition to these taillights that stretches this design out, you now have several horizontal lines that in addition creates this width of this car, and it's also framed in the same way, in a very similar way that we have in the front view right here with this angle. We now have similar angles in the rear, so we have a continuity from the front into the rear. We have quad tailpipes, not really bazooka tailpipes because they're hexagonal here, as you can see, but it's a new treatment of how you can put a diffuser and then combine that with the quad tailpipes in a new way. And I also appreciate BMW doing something different in that department. Now let's have a look at the interior before I give you my final thoughts on the BMW XM. So, this has this iPad that's stuck onto the dash, and I think BMW could have done a better job, or maybe put some more effort into making this the dash and the infotainment screen feel more integrated in the design. That's all I'm asking for. You can still have it be digital. I don't really mind that, but I think a simple solution to all these screens that we see, that just specifically like this, like Mercedes have and BMW now as well, what I would like to see is just have them sit inside of the dash. So have it create a little house for it like this. You can still have the exact same screen, but have it sit inside of the dash, because now this definitely looks like this has been glued onto the dash, and I'm not a fan of this integration here. You can see it gets very messy if you look behind this and how this is integrated in the rest of the interior. There's a lot of curvatures and stuff, messy things going on there to have this integration of this dash. I think we can remove all this and have this sit a little deeper in the dash, and that would also create a better vision. You could see the display better because it's no glare from outside light sources. But other than that, it feels like a pretty nice interior to be in, and a very simplistic interior, which I think looks good. You have some ambient lighting right here. This two-tone looks pretty good as well. I'm not sure if this would work with every single combination of the exterior design, but if I were going with this, I might have something like a colorful interior with a completely blacked out exterior. I think that would be my way to go with this. So the production version of the XM is, to me, a great example of a hunger for design innovation and refinement. There has never been a great reward without a great risk. And the XM is a design that will split a crowd in two distinct camps. You will have those who will love it, and then you will also have those who hate this design. But regardless of what camp you fall into, I think we should take a step back and look at this from a slightly different perspective. I think we should take a moment and appreciate what BMW is trying to do here, and that is to move car design forward. So whether BMW won the battle with the XM, that's totally up to you, but I have a feeling that in the end they're going to win the war.